Introduction to Human Development. Today, under this, we are going to learn the lesson Language Development. Objectives. The objective of this lesson is to understand the components of speech and language. The second objective is to understand the changes in language across the lifespan stages. Communication includes language, that is, understanding what is being spoken, reading, writing, and talking. Speech, articulation, voice, fluency, and stuttering, and hearing abilities. Language is a system of symbols and codes used in communication. It is the rules we learn in order to communicate our wants, needs, and dreams. Examples of language include gestures, reading, writing, and speaking. Language serves as a necessary means of communication. It is the primary form of expression through which people communicate their knowledge and thoughts. Language is a well-ordered system of rules that each adult member of the community comprehend in speaking and as well as writing. It is an important tool in the field of education. It is used as a vehicle through which education is imparted to the child. The child's language develops from simple to complex. That is, from the individual sounds to syllables, to one-word sentences, to two-word sentences, from there to complex, complete, grammatically accurate sentences. So, this is what we understand by the word language. Now, let us see how language acquisition takes place. Before a child utters words, infant must become proficient in distinguishing and producing sounds of their native language. They need to identify the individual words and their meanings from the streams of sounds they hear and spoken around them. First one, as we said, is distinguishing sounds of speech. Children must be able to discriminate sounds of language even before they can put the sounds together. Each language uses a subset of 100 to 150 possible phonemes. The second one is producing sounds of speech. Repetitive vowel sounds such as at the age of 2 months is called cooing. Normally, you would have seen small infants who are in 2 months of age all the time uttering the sounds that is the repetition of a vowel. That repetition of vowel is called as cooing. Then by 6 months the infant begins to combine the consonant sounds with vowels like ba, 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 da, da, da. Between 6 to 10 months, infant repeats consonant vowels combination of sounds like mama, baba, but during this stage the child does not associate any meaning to these sounds. They just utter the sounds, but they do not associate any meaning to these sounds. Internal communication. Infants can communicate their needs through gestures and vocalization before they utter a word. Communicative abilities of infants are dependent upon their cognitive abilities. For instance, to communicate their needs, the infant has to point towards an object. For this, he needs to understand the cause and effect relationships. First words. The children's ability to understand language is called receptive language. It precedes their ability to produce language or the expressive language. The first words are usually the names of common objects or people which are present in their immediate social setting. For example, they use the word mama for mother, dada for dog. The child's first words are called as hollow phrases. They are the individual words that convey as much meaning as a sentence. Development of vocabulary. Once a child understands the sounds and the word connection, which can be acquired by the age of 12 to 18 months, he adds 3 words per month to his vocabulary. After 18 to 24 months, a vocabulary explosion often occurs. in which the child quickly acquires a large number of words at a rapid rate. By the age of 2, he invents new words by changing a noun to a verb. Sometimes a child uses certain words which are outside the bounds of the category named by a word. This process is called as overextension. For example, a child may use the word doggy to refer any animal with 4 legs. At a time, they use words to refer a small group than the word exactly names. This is called as underextension. Example, the child may use word shoe for slippers also. Development of first sentence. At about 18 months of age, many children produce a sequence of words, usually separated by long pauses. They shift from hollow phrases to true sentences. The children's earliest sentences are called as telegraphic speech because they contain only most essential and informative words. This speech gradually becomes elaborated as a child develops more sophisticated language skills. So, this is all about the language development introduction. After knowing what is language development and the few words like single sentences, hollow phrases, now let us move on to see how the language develops from birth to 3 years. The ability to process, comprehend, retain and integrate spoken language is called as receptive skills. It is what the children acquire when they learn to listen and understand the conversations, the ways of talking, the expressive language and the ways of asking questions. Expressive skills. It is the ability to put words together to express the thoughts cohesively. It includes words, grammar and elaborations. Now, let us quickly look at the developmental milestones of the child from birth, both in receptive skills as well as expressive skills. From birth to 3 months, under receptive skills, the child has to respond to sounds. He has to smile or verbalize when spoken to. He quiets to familiar voices. Under the expressive skills developmental milestones, he has to prolonged vowels in sing-song manner, which we already studied it as cooing. And he has to show different cries, like the child cries differently when he is hunger and cries differently when he needs attention. 3 to 6 months. The developmental milestones for 3 to 6 months of age under receptive skills are he searches for speakers and sounds. He frightened or upset by angry voices and smiles for friendly voices. Under expressive skills developmental milestone, the child has to develop these skills: vocal turn taking, hand and non-speech vocal imitation, produces raspberries and sound plays. Early lip and tongue sounds are p, m, b and d. 6 to 9 months of age. The child in 6 to 9 months of age has to have these developmental milestones. Under receptive skills, they should respond to no, they should recognize and respond to the name, response to come. Under the expressive skills, he should smile and vocalize to self in mirror or a moving object. He sings to familiar songs with or without true words. A child of 9 to 12 months follows simple commands like sit, sit down, come here, give it. And under expressive skills, the child uses jargon with inflections and pauses, says mama, dada, bye bye and no. The child under 12 to 15 months of age has the receptive skills like understanding and identifying two words or objects in the following categories, like the toys, the family members, clothing. He can also attend to a book or a toy for 2 minutes and can identify the common objects in the book or the toy. He can identify 1 to 3 body parts. Under the expressive skills developmental milestones, the child says more than 5 true words, more than 7 by the age of 15 months. He uses jargon and 2 words when talking. The child uses gestures and vocalization to express wants and needs. A child in the age group of 15 to 18 months identifies 4 to 6 body parts or clothing items on a doll or a self, follows 2-step commands, for example, get the baby and put it in the bed. So, the child can follow 2-step commands and the child can understand up to 50 words. Under expressive skills, the child of 15 to 18 months can say more than 15 words with specific meaning. He can repeat words overheard. 3 to 4 new words each month he can add to his vocabulary. A child of 18 to 21 months. Under the receptive skills, the child understands and identifies 2 words in the categories like the families, friends, outdoor things. Descriptive words like hot and cold. He can also understand the pronouns and places. He can understand verbs in sentences like eat, drink, sleep. Under the expressive skills, the child of 18 to 21 months imitates words heard at the end of sentences and 2 to 3 word phrases. This vocabulary of the child increases to more than 20 words. He starts to use 2 word phrases. He uses the word no and 1 pronoun like my, mine, me and you, and even he can say hello and hi. By the age of 21 to 24 months, the child now understands up to 300 words and is learning every day new words. He follows new and less routine commands. He can easily point to the body parts. The age group of 21 to 24 months, the expressive skills of the child are using 30 to 50 words of specific meaning by the time he reaches his 22nd month and more than 50 words by the time he reaches 24 months. He uses 2 word phrases the majority of the time and 3 word phrases for some of the time. By the time the child is 24 to 27th month, he identifies the object of their use like drink out, sleep in, sit on, eat with. He knows the differences between big and little, in and on, one and all these differences the child can understand. Under expressive skills, a child of 24 to 27 months can use 3 word statements and can ask help for the personal need. He can recite portions of the nursery rhymes. He can use question inflections. By the age of 27 to 30 months, the child can point a picture when a given function of the object. He can identify colors. He can answer what, where, yes and no questions. He uses the verb ing form like eating, sleeping, dancing, crying. He can use past tense also by the time he reaches 30 months of the age. A child of 30 to 33 months can fully understand the concept of one and all. He can understand the descriptive vocabulary like the heavy, empty and the same. He can use plurals. He can use prepositions. He can tell how an object is used about. A child of 33 to 36 months. He can complete 3-step commands. He wants to know why and how thing works. He responds to the question why and when. The expressive skills of this child in the age group of 33 to 36 months are talking in 4 to 5 word sentences, using plurals other than by adding s. These are the developmental milestones of the child from birth to 3 years. So, after knowing the language development of the child from birth to 3 years, let us now move on to know the language development in the early childhood, that is from 3 to 6 years. The child can make sentences and learn the use of pronouns, adverbs and other connecting words like where, why, when, what, who, which, and to use the negatives in several ways. Syntax is usually almost like the adults. They include all parts of the speech. Later on, they use more complex and compound sentences with greater frequency as the years increase. Language is a transmission and reception of ideas and feeling through verbal symbols. The striking characteristics of the language is that infants acquire all the main forms of language and speech by the end of their second year. The ability to communicate with others through speech begins at a very early age and opens up many new advances of learning. The children normally do not begin to speak meaningfully until the first year of their life. But speech is preceded by various forms of vocalization which is called as pre-speech, and that distinguish the different types of cry signifying hunger or pain and discomfort. There are individual variations in language development due to various factors. The children's language development is aided with the adults' speech as they like to imitate the adults. Hence, the children should always have a good model to imitate. The development of language gives the young child the new tool or power to deal with his environment. The environment consists of both living and non-living things. The process of language learning, which begins early in infancy, increases at a rapid rate during the preschool years, that is from 3 to 6 years. The increase in the use of the words makes communication with others more meaningful. The child uses the language to talk to himself as well as others. The work of Piaget in regard to the language has focused attention on the egocentric and socialized functions of the language. The child uses various language strategies for performing various functions. Now, after looking at the language development in the children, let us now try to learn or understand the factors which affect the language development. There are individual differences in language development because of various factors. Physical condition. Physical condition is an important influence on the development of language. Severe and prolonged illness during the first 2 years of life can retard the development of speech. Hearing problem. Children who are hard of hearing are unable to develop speech at a normal rate. Intelligence. The children of superior intelligence talk early and are advanced in every phase of language development. The children of low intelligence are slow in their language development. The next factor is the socio-economic status. Children of higher socio-economic group are more advanced in the language than those of the lower socio-economic groups, since the social contacts and the relationship of the child have an important influence on the speech and language development. The next most important factor is the time spent by the mother. The amount of time a mother spends or a caregiver during the early years has a significant impact or relation on the child's language development. Healthy family relations aid good speech development, since the child imitates the adults in order to acquire the speech or language. Another important factor is the ordinal position. That is the number of the child, whether he is firstborn, secondborn or thirdborn. The only child has the mother undivided attention for a longer periods than a child who has a brother and sister. Twins and triplets are retarded in the speech development as compared to the singletons. Next factor is the opportunities and experiences. Providing opportunities for language development through verbal interaction with the adults play a great role with the children of their own age, stimulating the language acquisition. So, these are the factors which affect the language development of the child. Development theories have been advanced to explain how development of language takes place in children. Among the theories they have developed are those that are most strongly stress innate factors, that is, the child has genetic predisposition for using language. Some are of the view that language development is inherent part of the cognitive development and emphasize on the role of language in structuring the child's thinking. The third view lays more emphasis on the child's experiences, particularly on the social use of language within the family. Now, let us look at the Piaget's concepts of egocentric and socialized speech. In egocentric speech, the child does not bother to know to whom he is talking, whether he is being listened to or not. He talks either to himself or for the pleasure of associating with anyone who happens to be there at that moment. He does not attempt to understand the other points of view. In sociocentric speech, on the other hand, the child addresses the other persons and considers his point of view and tries to influence him or actually exchange the ideas with him. Now, let us see in detail how the egocentric speech happens. The egocentric speech lasts up to the age of 5 to 6 years. The child finds it difficult to put himself in the place of another person and he does not allow to make the other person understand him. For instance, the speech of the children of 2.5 years talking to each other is not reciprocating with one another. As the child grows, their speech becomes less egocentric and more sociocentric. Egocentric speech is an indication of the child's immaturity. It permits the child to talk to himself and understand his environment. In this way, he acquires labels for objects, people, properties, events which are useful in communicating with each other. Now, let us quickly look at the sociocentric speech. At the age of 5 to 6, with the increasing socialization of the child, a change from egocentric to sociocentric speech takes place. As the child grows older, he finds that the socially oriented speech is rewarded more frequently and more strongly. He also finds that it commands more attention than the egocentric speech and consists of communication addressing to one another when his response or point of view is considered. Piaget considered this is a sign of maturity in language development. So, this is the egocentric and social centric speech of the child. Now, let us look at the characteristics of the child's language development. The children's language deals with the present and is egocentric. The child does not know parts of speech. The language is unique to the child's age. The children are active participants in their own language learning. These are the characteristics of language development. So, after knowing what is language development and after understanding the developmental milestone the child has to attain by the time he reaches 6 years, and after understanding the egocentric and social centric speech of the children, let us now move on to the stages of language development. The first stage is respond to a language, showing response to verbal stimulus. Second stage is vocalization. 3 to 4 months child starts cooing or babbling. Babbling increases with the age and peaks around 9 to 12 months. Physical maturation plays an important role for babbling. The third stage is word development. The separation of noises heard into speech and non-speech. Separation of speech noises into words and sounds that form them. The next stage is the sentence. It starts from 2 years, talking simple, complete sentences. The next is elaboration. Elaboration includes description, narration, explanation and communication, having conversation through dramatic play. The next stage is graphic representation. It starts from the age of 5 to 6 years. The child exhibits his language through reading and writing. So, let us now look into the vocabulary development and sentence development. Vocabulary development. Like most complex skills, language is difficult to learn. Passive language or learning to understand language precedes the spoken language. When the words accompany an obvious action, they tend to acquire the meaning. In beginning, the main vocalizations of the child are cries of delight and distress. The infant finds that he can deliberately produce sounds. He finds delight in using his voice and making sounds. He is stimulated to make more sounds. These are the periods of babbling and cooing, have social value. Other peoples are attracted to the sounds produced by the baby. The early development of language is associated with intellectual development and with the stimulation provided by the conversation of others directed towards him. Now, we will see the sentence development. The 4 stages of sentence development have been identified. The single word stage. At about 12 months of the age, the child enters the single word stage. Early sentence stage. At the age of 2 years, the child is an early sentence stage. These sentences are of 1 or 2 words, but they convey the whole meaning of a total sentence. In sentences, nouns are predominant. There is a lack of articles, auxiliaries, verbs, prepositions and conjunctions. Then the 3rd stage is short sentence stage. Early sentence stage gives way to short sentence stage between the age group of 2 to 3 years. The sentence consists of 3.5 to 4 words having a characteristics of preceding stage, but to a lesser degree. Inflections has not yet been mastered by this age. Then the last stage is a complete sentence stage. At about 4 years of age, the child begins to enter the complete sentence stage consisting of 6 to 8 words. They use relational words and good mastery of inflections can also be observed in this age group. Language is a transmission and reception of ideas, feelings through verbal symbols. The striking characteristics of language is that the infant acquires all main forms of language and speech by the age group of 2nd year. The ability to communicate with others through speech begins at an early age and opens up many new advances of learning. Children normally do not begin to speak meaningfully until after the 1st year of life, but speech is preceded by various forms of vocalization which is called as pre-speech that can distinguish by different types of cry signifying hunger, pain, discomfort. There are individual variations in language development because of various factors. The children's language development is aided by adult speech because the child likes to imitate. Hence, the children should be given a good model to imitate. So, we have learnt what is language development, how language develops from birth to 6 years. Next, we have learned to understand the Piaget's egocentric and socialized speech. We also understood the factors and characteristics of language development. We also understood the stages of language development and especially the vocabulary development and sentence development. Hope you have understood the lesson language development. Thank you.